At the Dallas Pistol and Revolver Club in 1991, Trey Cooley, a young spectator, was watching a shooting competition seated behind an air gun range. He was struck and killed by a stray bullet. This is how ballistics, lasers, and forensic animation solved the riddle of the magic bullet. 14-year-old Trey Cooley. Look at him and you see the All-American boy. Trey attended Bowles Junior High School in Arlington, Texas, near Dallas. He played cello in the school orchestra, played baseball, and was a Boy Scout.
At that age, every kid has the whole world open to him. He could have done anything he wanted to do.
Most of all, he enjoyed spending time with his family. Trey and his father, Butch, were best friends.
We did everything together.
September 29, 1991. Butch Cooley woke early that Saturday morning, then went to wake Trey. The two shared a passion for shooting. Butch was judging a competition. He gave Trey a choice to sleep in or tag along. Trey chose to go with his father.
Trey started shooting when he was 7. He enjoyed it. Shot his first deer when he was 8. He wanted to be a pistol competitor. And he was pretty good at it.
At the Dallas Pistol and Revolver Club, Trey volunteered to help out by running results from judges to the official scorer. In between assignments, he sat in the airgun building to get out of the hot Texas sun. He sat just inside the door near 2 women who were working as scorers. But behind people shooting air pistols, nothing more than pellet and BB guns. Then, a blood-curdling scream. Trey Cooley slumped to the floor, blood flowing from his temple. His baseball cap had a tiny but telltale hole. Butch Cooley was outside the building, just a few yards from his son when he heard the screaming. Although Butch Cooley spent 21 years as a state trooper and was trained to handle emergencies, no training could prepare him for what he saw next.
When I got there, I saw that he'd been shot. I checked his pulse. I knew it wasn't good.
Butch walked in and I asked him, "What are you doing home?" And I said, "Well, where is Trey?" And then he came in and he told me, he said, "There's been an accident." And I was thinking, well, he's cut his foot, or cut his hand, or broke his arm, And I said, well, that's okay. He'll be okay.
Trey was rushed by ambulance to Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas.
He was just laying there. He was breathing, or the machine was breathing for him. His little hands were still warm. And he just looked like he was asleep.
6 hours later, Trey died.
I just wanted to tell him that I was very, very proud of him. I loved him dearly.
My only son. My best friend. My fishing buddy. My hunting partner. Just a void.
Trey Cooley was seated in the club's designated safety area. It was an accident that shouldn't have happened. Detective Tom Pease and crime investigator David Taylor had a tough job to figure out where the bullet that killed Trey Cooley came from and to determine if the shooting was accidental or intentional. Butch Cooley spent 2 decades as a state trooper. Was it possible the shooting had something to do with an enemy he possibly made during his tenure? Or had the bullet come from outside, from one of the outdoor shooting ranges, or possibly the nearby railroad tracks where kids had a history of taking shots at the airgun building?
The biggest problem with this range, or this scene, was the size of it. It wasn't contained inside a house, inside an apartment. It was outside, and it covered several hundred feet.
The bullet removed from Trey's skull would provide some answers and raise new questions. The bullet was small, about ½ an inch long, but lethal. Larry Fletcher is the firearms expert who conducted the ballistics examination.
The bullet was not that damaged. The bullet was in rather remarkable condition.
This is a .45 caliber bullet after striking a cement wall. It is badly mangled, especially when compared to the bullet that killed Trey Cooley. That lack of damage could be telling, except for one thing. This was not a typical .45 caliber bullet.
This particular bullet is a hand-loaded or hand-made bullet. It's not a commercial-made bullet, in which they can add other materials to the lead and make it much harder. It can withstand a lot of damage upon impact.
Who makes and uses these types of bullets? Butch Cooley knew.
Competitive shooters like to load their own ammunition. Primary reason being the cost savings.
Most of the competitive shooters on the outside ranges that day were using handmade bullets, so there was little doubt that the bullet came from somewhere here rather than from kids on the railroad tracks. Police collected the weapons and ammunition samples from the shooters in the competition. When Larry Fletcher examined the bullets used that day on the outside ranges, he noticed something else.
The powder charge, which increased the velocity of this particular type of bullet.
Basically, the shooters used bullets with more gunpowder. More gunpowder means these bullets travel farther and faster than a regular .45 caliber bullet. Fletcher's next task was to match the bullet that killed Trey to one of about a dozen guns. Each of the guns from the shooting competition were test-fired and compared to the bullet taken from Trey Cooley's skull. Fletcher had trouble getting an exact match because the extra gunpowder created extremely high temperatures during the firing of the gun, actually melting some of the distinguishing marks. But Fletcher noticed a red wax on the bullet that killed Trey. All shooters use a lubricating wax, but only one of the guns used a red wax. Larry Fletcher found the gun that fired the fatal shot.
At that point, I was pretty much convinced